Hey everyone! Welcome to this Woodland Explainer, where we're going to be putting everything you've learned about the Latin root manus to the ultimate test. Okay, let's dive right into this. If you've been following along with our root word journey, you already know that manus means hand. But today isn't just about reviewing basic definitions. We are officially entering the championship tournament. I want you to think of this as a grand festival where you finally get to prove your skills as a master word detective. All right, so here's a quick look at our festival map for today. We're going to start with Welcome to the Championship, hit up the Morphology Workshop, do some hand root comparisons, tackle the spelling and meaning challenges, look at real-life word detectives, and finally wrap up with the Master Root graduation. Let's get to it. So jumping right into Section 1, Welcome to the Championship, and how to earn your golden passport stamps. Step right up to the festival courtyard. I'm going to be your guide for this tournament. Folks around these linguistic woods often call me Professor Turtle. Now, our main goal today is absolutely crucial. We're focusing on true application, not just rote memorization. We want to really build up your reasoning, your pattern recognition, and your analytical thinking. And hey, every challenge you knock out today earns you a shiny golden stamp in your virtual word detective passport. It's all about building your confidence and speed. That way, when you stumble across a massive, kind of scary-looking word out in the wild, you're going to know exactly how to conquer it. Moving on to Section 2, the Morphology Workshop, where we'll be building and breaking words. Okay, let's kick things off with a root recognition challenge. Take a second, really use your reasoning here. Which of these words are actually related to the root manus? Well, you'll probably spot pretty quickly that trickster words like man and many have literally nothing to do with hands. I mean, they kind of look like they belong, but they're total imposters. But then, look at words like manufacture, making something by hand, or manicure, which is care of the hands, or even manager, which actually originally meant to handle a horse. Those are absolutely stamped with our Latin root. All right, time to put on your prefix detective hats so we can completely dismantle some of these complex words. Take a massive word like remanufacture. If we break it down, we get re, meaning again, manus for hand, and fact, meaning to make. So to make by hand again makes perfect sense, right? Or check out emancipation. It looks incredibly complex at first glance, but it actually just comes from taking someone out from the hand or the control of another person. Once you identify the prefix, the root, and the suffix, the literal meaning basically just falls right into your lap. Here in our Build-A-Word factory, we can see exactly how stacking these Latin building blocks together actually constructs the everyday vocabulary we use. So if you take manus and add script, which means to write, bam, you get a manuscript, a document written by hand. Or add mission, meaning to send, and you get manumission, that's the act of sending someone from your hand, essentially freeing a slave. It's honestly just pure linguistic math. And now you're the one holding the formula. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, by looking solely at the word parts, you can accurately predict the hidden meanings of seemingly impossible words, literally before I even explain them to you. Think about it. If you know by means to, then bimanual obviously means requiring two hands. If cap means to take, well then manua caption has to do with taking something by hand. Just trust your knowledge of these little pieces, and I promise you, the definitions will just reveal themselves. All right, on to Section 3, hand root comparisons, looking at manus versus dexter versus cheer. Now that we've totally mastered those building blocks, we're ready to cross the prefix bridge. Let's compare how different ancient languages actually talk about hands. This is so cool because it brilliantly illustrates how our modern English language is really just a giant puzzle, It's made up of Latin, Greek, and Germanic pieces all mashed together. So when we look at words like manual or dexterity, we're basically speaking the ghosts of Latin. When we say chiropractor, we're pulling straight from ancient Greek. And what about those everyday trickster words we mentioned, like man and many? Actually, those are solidly Germanic. Knowing exactly where a word comes from gives you a massive advantage in understanding its deeper meaning. By sorting these roots side by side, it's pretty clear that while manus, dexter, and chair all relate to the hand, they sprout into completely different branches on our woodland language tree. Like, dexter gave us dexterous and ambidextrous. And actually, fun fact here, ambidextrous literally translates to having two right hands. Crazy, right? Then share gave us chiropractic, which is healing done by hand. So they all live in the exact same forest, but man, they are very different trees. Next up is Section 4, Spelling and Meaning Challenges, right here in the Spelling Pavilion. Gather round the spelling pavilion, folks. It's time to put all this theory into some rigorous practice with a championship spelling bee simulation. Now, for this challenge, if we were doing this live, I'd give you the pronunciation, the definition, the language of origin, and a sentence for these 12 words. But as you look over this list right now, just pause. Try to build the spelling in your mind using those root strategies we talked about. Like if you hear bimanual, don't just try to memorize the random letters. Hear the pieces. B-I-M-A-N-U-A-L. You're building the spelling directly through the roots. And let me tell you, that is exactly how champions spell. Okay, don't panic when you see completely unfamiliar mystery words here, like manifer or maniductor. Seriously, take a breath. In the real world, you're not always going to have a dictionary handy, right? So just find the root, trust your reasoning, and try to predict the definition. For instance, if ductor means to lead, then a maniductor has got to be someone who leads by the hand. See? You might have never seen the word before in your life, but your detective skills just totally solved the mystery. Now, let's test your context clues. We're going to fill in these blanks with the correct MANUS vocabulary word. Let's try it. The pilot switched from automatic to manual control. Or how about the monks copied an ancient manuscript? The engineer completed manual calibration, and the paleontologist examined the dinosaurs manus. Yep, manus is actually the scientific term for the hand portion of the limb. Do you see how perfectly these words adapt to totally different fields like aviation, history, engineering, and science? Watch your step here in the trap hedge maze, though. We really need to look at some confusing pairs so you never mix them up. Okay, so manual relates to hands, right? But manorial, with an O, relates to a manor or an estate. Totally different. A manuscript is written by hand, whereas a typescript is, well, typed on a machine. And we already know that a manager handles things, while man is just that sneaky Germanic trickster word we caught earlier. Always look closely at the spelling. It literally hides the word's true identity. Moving right along to Section 5, Real-Life Word Detectives, Finding Manus in the Wild. All right, you've definitely proven your skills in the pavilion. You're analyzing and spelling like total pros, so let's take this explainer out into the wild. But first, it's time for a rapid-fire lightning round to really spark that analytical thinking. Ready? Is it related, not related, Latin or Greek? What's the prefix? What's the literal meaning? Doing this kind of fast-paced review is exactly what cements these patterns into your brain so you can recognize them in a split second when you're out and about. Just imagine walking through your town for a second. You might see a manual override switch at the airport or find a manuscript in the local library. Maybe you think of the manufacturing floor of a nearby factory, or you're just sitting there manipulating data on your computer. I want you to try and build this enormous word web in your mind, connecting all these terms to real, physical locations. Because honestly, these aren't just boring vocabulary words on a test. They are literally the labels of our physical world. And that brings us to the ultimate test of a word detective. When you come face to face with a completely unknown word in the real world, say, I don't know, in a dense news article or a heavy textbook, can you break it down piece by piece before you reach for your phone to Google it? Can you extract the prefix, isolate that root, identify the suffix, and construct the literal reading yourself? Because if you can do that, your vocabulary basically has absolutely no limits. Finally, we've arrived at Section 6, the Master Root Graduation, where you earn your detective badge. Well, the sun is finally setting on our championship festival. You've navigated the tricky mazes, survived the lightning rounds, and cracked the morphology codes. So, as you prepare to head out, I want you to mentally pack your champion's toolbox. From now on, whenever you read, do this. Listen carefully to the word. Find that root, strip away the prefixes and the suffixes, look around for any language clues, think about the literal meaning, and above all else, this is rule number 6, never ever panic when you're faced with a giant word. Just take a breath and think like a detective. As Professor Turtle would say, I am just so incredibly proud to stamp everyone's passport today with the title of Master Root Detective. You didn't just sit there and memorize today, you actually applied it. But hey, keep in mind, the heavy wooden doors to the Grand Hall of Root Masters, they're only just opening. There are literally hundreds of other roots out there just waiting for you to conquer them. So I've got one final challenge for you before we part ways. Can you go out into the real world this week, find 20 completely unfamiliar words, and be your very own spelling detective? I'm talking breaking them down, recording their origins, their literal meanings, and testing out your spelling strategies. Are you ready to start seeing those invisible linguistic threads that connect every single word you speak? I mean, what other ancient secrets are just hiding right there in your everyday conversations? Grab your magnifying glass, get out there, and I will see you next time.